A sunny day at Peppa Pig's house suddenly turns dark with thick clouds. Peppa plays with toys in her room, but outside the window grows darker and darker. Strange shadows begin moving across the nursery walls. George hides under his blanket. His beloved dinosaur lies forgotten on the floor. Mummy Pig cooks dinner in the kitchen, but the stove suddenly goes out. All lights in the house begin flickering and dimming one by one. Daddy Pig reads newspaper in the living room, but letters on pages start blurring. His glasses fog up from cold breath that shouldn't be there. An ominous knock echoes at the front door of the house. Nobody expected visitors on such a late and gloomy evening. A tall, dark figure in a tattered hat stands at the doorstep. Mr. Wolf. His eyes glow red in the darkness, and his smile is far too wide. Mr. Wolf enters the house without invitation. His footsteps echo through the hallway. The pig family gathers in the living room, huddling close together. The wolf slowly climbs the stairs to the second floor. His claws scrape against the banister, leaving deep scratches in the wood. Peppa and George climb up to the attic, trying to hide among old boxes. But creaky floorboards betray their presence to the villain. Mr. Wolf finds the children in the attic. His shadow fills the entire space. But instead of fear, children see in his eyes loneliness and sadness. Peppa offers the wolf her favorite toy, a teddy bear. Mr. Wolf stops in surprise. His red eyes become ordinary and kind. In the morning, Mr. Wolf leaves, but now he's not a scary villain, just a lonely friend. The pig family waves to him from the window, and the sun shines brightly over their house again. There is no way out. The morning in the pig family house was unusually quiet. Peppa woke up and noticed something strange. George sat in his crib completely still. His eyes stared at one spot. Peppa went downstairs to the kitchen for breakfast. Mummy Pig stood at the stove with her back turned. Peppa called for Mummy, but she didn't answer. Something was wrong with Mummy. Mummy slowly turned around to face Peppa. Her eyes had become completely different. Peppa got scared and ran to Daddy. Daddy Pig was reading newspaper in the living room. Daddy also didn't respond to his daughter's call. His hands were shaking while holding the newspaper. Peppa ran outside to her friends. Susie Sheep was swinging on the swings. Susie was swinging very slowly and strangely. Her gaze was empty and cold. All of Peppa's friends gathered at the playground, but nobody was playing or laughing. The children stood silently and looked at Peppa. Their movements became very slow. Peppa realized that everyone had changed. She was the only normal one left. Grandpa Pig appeared from around the house corner. He walked with a strange, wobbly gait. Everyone slowly approached Peppa. Their eyes glowed in the twilight. Peppa screamed and ran back home. But home no longer seemed safe. Shadows flickered in the house windows. Something was waiting for Peppa inside. Peppa stopped at the house door. Now she was completely alone. The door slowly opened by itself. Strange sounds came from inside the house. Peppa took a step back from the house, but behind her, everyone else was already standing. Everyone's eyes glowed in the darkness. Peppa realized there was no way out. A sunny day illuminated Peppa Pig's house, but something was wrong. Peppa and George were playing in their room when they heard a strange creak outside the window. Mummy Pig was cooking lunch in the kitchen, but the knife in her hands was trembling. Daddy Pig was reading the newspaper, but the letters blurred before his tired eyes. Grandpa Pig was working in the garden, but the plants looked withered. Susie Sheep came to visit, but her eyes were empty and cold. A dark shadow appeared in the forest behind the house. Shadow Rabbit watched the family through the windows, his red eyes glowing in the darkness. Peppa noticed a strange figure by the window. She called for Mummy, but when they looked, no one was there. George found a black feather in the garden. When he picked it up, everything around became cold and quiet. In the evening, the family gathered for dinner. The lights in the house began to flicker, and shadows on the walls moved by themselves. Shadow Rabbit entered the house through the basement. His steps were silent, but the air became icy cold. Peppa woke up at night from a strange noise. In the hallway stood a dark figure with burning red eyes. Mummy and Daddy Pig searched for the children throughout the house, but the children had vanished, leaving only black footprints on the floor. Grandpa Pig went out to search for his grandchildren. In the forest, he heard children crying, but the sound came from underground. Susie Sheep also disappeared without a trace. Her pink dress was found on a tree branch, torn to shreds. Shadow Rabbit gathered all the children in his underground lair. Their eyes became as empty as his own. In the morning, the parents found only an empty house. The children returned, but they no longer laughed or played, only stared silently with red eyes. A sunny day illuminated Peppa Pig's house, filling it with familiar laughter. But today, something was off. A subtle, almost imperceptible tension hung in the air. Suddenly, there was a knock at the door. Susie Sheep stood on the doorstep, but her gaze was unusually blank, her movements stiff. She didn't smile, as always, nor jump with joy. Peppa and George, usually so cheerful, froze. Their eyes widened in bewilderment. Mummy Pig slowly approached the door, her face pale. Daddy Pig, usually so brave, hid behind the sofa. He trembled, his snout twitching with fear. Susie entered the house without a word. Her steps were heavy, each sound echoing. She slowly turned her head, her eyes fixed on Peppa. Peppa felt a chill. Susie extended her hand, her fingers pale and cold. She held something small and black. It was a doll resembling Peppa, but the doll had empty eye sockets and a crooked smile. George cried, tears streaming down his cheeks. Mummy Pig hugged the children tightly. Susie slowly lifted the doll. She began to make strange, whispering sounds. It wasn't Susie's voice. Daddy Pig darted from behind the sofa, grabbed his children and wife. They ran out of the house without looking back. Susie remained standing. She watched them go, her empty eyes following their every move. The doll in her hand swayed slowly. The sun disappeared behind the clouds. Peppa Pig's house, usually so cozy, now seemed ominous. Inside, a quiet, eerie laugh echoed. Peppa's family ran without a glance.